Hi, everybody. I am thrilled today to introduce you all to Riz McDonald from Founded Legal. I first founded, am I saying it correctly? And Riz, a few months ago now, when I was actually looking to update my own legal documents, and I found this company and the resources and what you offer absolutely amazing. So I knew that I had to get you on and chat to you for our members. So thank you for your time, Riz, and it's lovely to talk to you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully providing some value and some knowledge and experience. Thank
Yep,
you.
fantastic. Um, I know this can be quite a daunting and less traveled pathway for us as creatives to go down the road of our legal documentation and our contracts, even though I'm sure you're going to explain to us how important that is. So, yeah, can you tell us a little bit first about your business, Founded? Is it founded or found?
Find with two
Found
D's,
with
but
two
it makes
Ds.
sense when you see the logo. It's two interlocking D's, so it's kind of like an infinity symbol, and it's a stepping stone for me and my clients. So we're constantly in touch, and you know it's an
Perfect.
interlocking loop.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
I'll keep the second D out of my pronunciations from now.
that's all
Yeah,
good,
tell us
all
a little
good.
bit about
So
Found.
yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, my name's Riz, and I've been a lawyer for over 20 years, and I've also been an e-commerce entrepreneur. So I've used that business experience and knowledge as well as my legal knowledge to set up Find, which I launched in September 2019, and it's for creatives. So I saw a gap in the market where there wasn't anything that was affordable and easy to understand and explain for creatives. And in my view, there was a concern from my perspective that they weren't looking after their most valuable asset, which was their intellectual property. So I started Find Legal with a combination of templates, which are industry specific. So they're as good as custom documents in my view, and as well as one-on-one services if people do want something really bespoke, or if they want to protect their intellectual property and register a trademark. So we offer those services as well, and we offer a lot of as you will know by now, having been on our website, a lot of free resources as well, to educate and empower those creatives to make informed decisions. And I'm all about, making sure, and Find is all about being proactive. We don't want you to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your legals. We want you to protect yourself in a way that's affordable and manageable, and will avoid that extreme spend on legals if you are proactive.
I think it's amazing, and it's a real it's just someone taking your hand instead of feeling like the legal system is such a daunting door to open up for us often as creatives. Think, oh, it doesn't really relate to me. But I'm sure that you're about to tell me some scenarios or some some instances and examples where that hasn't been the case, and that it has, not only cost money, but really had a massive negative effect on businesses not being protected in the first hand and dealing with it down the track. So I think what you've created in regards to the templates and the way that it's so user friendly is brilliant, and it absolutely has been a gap in the market for sure. I agree. So on that, have you got some examples or areas of problems that have occurred with creatives?
Oh, quite
So
a few, quite a few. So there's a couple of examples. One is, the example, and this has happened multiple times, where my clients have not had a contract in place. And they come to me and, oh, we've done this job, we did an amazing job, and the client won't pay, and they don't have a contract in place. And what happens there is, even though you don't have a contract, you can still potentially rely on the communications, but it's not it costs more money, because that means you've got to collate all those emails, all those DMs and SMSs you've had between you and your client to work out what was agreed and how it was agreed. And then the lawyer has to review all of that, which takes a lot of time, ergo costs a lot of money. But if they'd had a proper solid contract in the first place, they would be able to rely on the contract terms rather than having two things happen. One is the expense of trying to figure out whether they can get that money back, and that costs money, paying a lawyer to work it out for them. And secondly is then chasing that money once they've determined, yes, you can claim that money, and these are the steps you need to take. So it's a double whammy of expenses to pursue that, when if you'd had a contract in the first place. And there are ways in which you can mitigate further risk with the contract as well, but not having that written contract. Other examples I've had is where, intellectual property. So for example, we've had scenarios where somebody has licensed their IP to a client for a particular purpose, but they weren't very clear in their contract. They didn't realize they needed to be very specific around what that license entailed. And so they were in a situation where the client, for a very small sum, was able to utilize the license in that product for lots of other things. So they lost income for those other things. So because their terms weren't clear enough, they copied and pasted from somewhere, basically. So they weren't able to rely on those terms efficiently. So they were only getting paid for one thing when they should have been getting paid for several things. Another scenario was where somebody stole somebody else's whole entire course and tried to make money from that. We were able to successfully shut that down, but it cost our client money to hire us to fix the problem. Whereas if they'd had appropriate terms and conditions in place, that may have reduced those costs.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, for us, I remember, as a wedding and event florist, predominantly for a big portion of my career, just over time, we were needing our public liability and all of these things added to every job because of, the vase falling over and breaking and someone cutting themselves on the glass and all those things. And so I know that there's a lot for us now as florists with roof installations and large designs that could be, unsafe for one. But do you have, I guess, what do you have in place already, or what would you recommend for florists and photographers, probably predominantly, I guess?
Yeah. So we do have photography specific, event photography, videography, commercial photography templates. We do have those in place already. But what I would say to anyone is, if you think about it, it's you're entering into a partnership with somebody else. They have obligations, you have obligations. And if things go wrong, what would you like to happen? And making sure that's addressed in your contract. So some of the examples you gave, a vase breaking and falling over, well, who broke it and how did that happen? And you need to address those things in your contract. The other thing, you asked me for some examples of issues, is things like scope creep. That's an issue where you're not clear as to how many revisions or how many things you're going to do and how often if things go wrong, and at what point do you start charging for your time. Those kind of things need to be addressed in the contract. Your payment terms, for example, if you're not clear about them and how often you should get paid and when you should get paid, that can cause issues as well and problems. So it's a combination of, I guess, legals and communication and common sense filtered through all of that. But in terms of what we can offer, we have a couple of free resources and lots of blogs on so many different things that would be super helpful to your listeners. And we also have templates. We have event planner templates and we have photography templates as well. I can't recall if we have a florist template, but if there's demand for it, we'll certainly produce one. So yeah, so and in those templates, you know, we try to address those key things that I've just discussed as well. Who owns your IP, the payment terms,
Yep.
the scope of the work, you know, all of those things. But it does require your input as well, around that, and how your systems and processes work as well.
Yeah, I think that's what I really loved about the template that I'm using of yours in regards to mostly my coaching, really, and my mentoring, was that there was I guess those prompts to add really specific things that were in your business, and ways that you could really refine it to create it as your own, with obviously the embedded legal jargon that needed to be there that we don't always
Yeah.
know to do at ourselves. But I thought that was really helpful. I think, especially in regards to weddings, we're dealing with a client usually of a high budget and over a
Yeah.
long period of time. So when you were saying about how many revisions will you allow before you start charging, we, you know, always recommend to my clients that we have the seasonal availability, you know, clause in there in regards to us doing our best to provide what we've said we can, but we're dealing with a natural seasonal product that sometimes then at the last minute, you know, we need to substitute. And so
Absolutely. You've got
things
to,
like
yes.
that we need to add in there, but they're probably getting added in without a lot of just that legal
Yeah.
strength behind them, I'd say, you know. And I think if it comes right down to something at the end, you really need to protect yourself as a business owner. So, you know, I don't think anybody should be going through the wedding and event process these days without a contract in place for their clients and very clear terms and conditions on your obligations and what you expect from your clients as well. And, you know, sometimes, you know, the wedding falls over the week before or the day of, or you know, those sort of things. And we had that, obviously, that massive scenario 2, 3, 4 years ago when,
Yes.
you know, the event industry just absolutely came to a halt. So we were
Yeah.
all just winging it there for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think probably the event template that you have would pretty much cover most of the details in regards to a
Yeah.
wedding situation. But yeah, you've got that
Yeah.
flexibility to be able to add some things if you need to.
Absolutely. And it's you know, I always say to people that when you have a contract, it's not a set and forget. You should revisit it every year. You should also document every time you have a really big pain point with a client, because that's a learning, and that learning can then be addressed into the contract or addressed into your systems and processes. And that you should never treat your contract as a band-aid. It should be the safety net. And what I mean by that is it's just one part of this puzzle, and this journey with your client. You know, you hand over you have the consult, for example, you onboard them, you send them the contract. You should have systems and processes in place to have these triggers and reminders for the invoicing, for the, you know, acknowledging and reminding them of the key things in your contract that are important to you and for them, to keep moving that project or that service along efficiently, and that communication with the client through your systems and processes. So combined with what the contract says, embedding elements that are important in the contract into your systems and processes and your communications makes for a much better customer experience, a much less stressful time for you, hopefully, as well. And it may mitigate certain risks. So even if you have clauses in your contract that you can rely on, if you can make sure that those things don't happen in the first place through your systems and processes, you won't need to rely on those terms. But it's nice to know it's there as a safety net.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think communication's everything, especially when you're working with clients over such a long period of time.
Absolutely.
Their experience with you will far outweigh, as in regards to their memory of the cost that it costs to work with you. You know, their experience
Correct.
and how they relay that to the 200 people that are at their wedding is all going to be about their experience with you far more than the price of anything. So I think that's so important.
Absolutely. And look, they're not going to remember the terms and conditions they signed either, which is why you need to address those core things that you're relying on and you want their input on within your systems and processes. So your payment terms and when you send them and those gentle reminders, and reminding them of the cancellation terms, for example, just because they're in the contract doesn't mean you shouldn't have them somewhere else to remind them of those things. And a reminder of the timeframes around, say, feedback on the images. You take the photos and, you're working on them, you send them for feedback. Well, how long are you supposed to give them for them to give you feedback? Because you've got other jobs going on as well. And so managing all of that, just because your contract says certain things, you should add that into your journey, your system, your process as well.
Yeah. It just reinforces it again in a really professional way.
Correct.
And then just one quick question too. With when you've got terms and conditions added to a payment system or, an automated payment system, whether it's through your Xero or through online, whatever platform you're using, is a ticker box, I acknowledge the terms and conditions, enough, or should you be getting a signed document back?
You can have it as a tick box, but just make sure that it is that they tick it. It's not automatically ticked by your system or process. And there should be a hyperlink as well. So there needs to be, something like I accept and understand, or I've read, these and accept these terms and conditions, and with a hyperlink to those terms and conditions. So, you don't have to have it so that there's a physical signature. And look, there's amazing technology now where you can do electronic signatures, but you can also do the click and accept as well. And it's making sure one other thing I would suggest is in the contract, making it clear that that's an option. If a click and accept option is taken, that it's still a valid acceptance of the terms. So having those things in place, there's nothing stopping you from having a click and accept. Just make sure though that the terms and conditions are fair and reasonable, because there's more scrutiny, especially with subscription services, the ones that auto renew, etc. And with the unfair contract terms legislation that's being updated and changed, it's really important that your terms and conditions are fair and reasonable as well, and they're not too one-sided to your benefit. So there needs to be a bit of, fairness there as well. But yes, in answer to your question, you can have a click and accept option as long as, they physically do that ticking. And you've got a hyperlink to the terms and conditions as well. And it wouldn't hurt to include some language in the contract to say that if it's signed that way, it's accepted as a signature as well.
It's we're just, going down that lovely automated road where things are just, embedded in links, and it's all wonderful. But I just wanted to make sure that it was, still considered okay.
Yeah, no, it is possible. So that shouldn't be an issue as long as you don't free ticket for them.
Oh, no, it's definitely there as a tick. And just finish off, is there, I guess, for us as business, I mean, most of the time, I guess we're solopreneurs, and we're not here in multi-billion-dollar businesses. Roughly, are you able to give, I know this is a very broad question, but an idea of costs in regards to setting up, say, basic terms and conditions or a client agreement? I know for me, I've got your privacy policy template, which is really important for me for my website as well. So I know you've got some options of what to buy in regards to a package, but roughly, are you able to give our readers?
So if you were to include, if you were to look at a services agreement and website terms and conditions and a privacy policy, then you're looking at under $1,000.
Yeah.
versus spending $4, $5, $6,000 having custom documents created. So you can set yourself up from a legal perspective for less than $1,000. So yes, it's certainly achievable, and it's certainly obviously everyone's going to say, of course, you're going to recommend it. It's certainly recommended, but purely from, in my view, it's about being proactive. So regardless of whether you buy from me or somebody else, I hope that you do have the right legals in place, because they are worth that initial expense versus the multiple thousands of dollars you may have to spend trying to chase down a client who owes you money, or your copyright's been breached, and going through that process without clear contractual terms around that. So in my view, it would be money well spent either way.
Yeah.
To invest in having certain legal documents in place in your business, and it gives your customers, your clients, certainty as well, that and also it's it certainty in the sense that it sets out clearly what their obligations are, what your obligations are in that arrangement. It also makes them feel like they're dealing with somebody who's professional,
Yeah.
and not a fly by night. So there's that level of professionalism there as well. And also, when you have a website and you have the website terms and conditions and privacy policy on there, it gives some comfort to the visitor, the user of your website, that they're dealing with somebody professional, that they know what's going to happen to their personal information. They know what the rules are for going on that website. And it also protects you as well in terms of any kind of liability. And look, these days, Facebook, Google, etc., all require you to have privacy policies anyway. So it's really important to have those things in place, as much to protect you as well as to, give comfort and to your customers, your clients as well.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's a part of your professional business that you have these things in place, you have them visible for people, and it gives them so much more confidence and trust with who they're dealing with, that you're dealing with a
Absolutely.
professional business person. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And look, just to give you some, we talked about examples of things before, just to give you some additional flavor and examples in terms of doing things right at the beginning. A lot of businesses, when they're starting out, they're super excited about their brand and their colors and their website and how beautiful it all is. And they invest so much time, effort, and money into that without doing the right due diligence around, having the right contracts in place, etc., of checking it to see if their name is not taken by somebody else. We recently had a scenario where somebody didn't do the right searches around a name, and they registered that name. They had the social media handles, had the website, did all the things, and ordered the stock. And they're now about to spend about $10,000 rebranding. And that doesn't include the cost of setting up their brand and setting up their business. So they're going to have to spend at least $10,000 rebranding, because they also had product in place as well, because they didn't do that right due diligence to make sure, their business name was available and not somebody else's trademark, as one example. And unfortunately, they've now had to do a complete rebrand, because it was a lot more cost effective to do that versus fighting this other business over the name.
Same name.
So there's lots of different things, to be mindful of. And, as a small business starting out, there's a couple of things I want to say. And that is, if you pick a name, make sure it's available. Do your due diligence, go check out IP Australia and do a search, make sure it's not a registered trademark. And by the way, if you register a business name and you want to trademark it, make sure it's not somebody else's trademark. And registering a business name is not going to give you exclusive rights. You do need to register as a trademark. The other thing to do is then, don't let everyone know your name just yet, so you can secure the domain name, the social media handles for your business as well. Make sure you have the right legal contracts in place. Make sure you have the right insurance in place. A good insurance broker is worth their weight in gold, so do have those conversations. Speak to an accountant. You may not be able to afford a regular accountant, but you should think about working with a bookkeeper. Get your finances in order as well, and make sure you get paid there's a couple of things you can do around your payments as well. Rather than chasing for payments when the work is already done, maybe structure your payments so that you get paid just before you release the work. So think about different ways in which you can do that and manage that, so you mitigate some of those risks, not just through your contracts, but through your systems and processes, and through just basically doing some research as well.
That they're all such great tips. Thank you so much. I mean, in regards to the payment, given that we mostly working with a perishable product, we 100% get the payment beforehand. But yeah, thank you. I don't have any other questions, but thank you so much for that extra information, Riz. I think it's all super helpful, and thank you for creating something that is so easy accessible for creatives, because I think that's hasn't well, I haven't seen anything like it. So it's really I think the just your general emails are great. All the tips and tricks and advice that you freely give, I think, is really beautiful. And I know that you have such a resource of freebies. So I hope everybody is going to enjoy popping on over there and seeing everything that you have to offer, because it's just so worthwhile and so needed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm proud to say we're the first in Australia for being exclusively for creatives. So yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
So and thank you so much for having me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for your time, Riz. You have a beautiful day.